There is a hidden room inside Neverland that Michael Jackson never showed anyone, and what was found inside that room tells a completely different story than the one the media has been selling for 20 years. It was tucked behind a false wall inside a closet, and behind 3 deadlocks that could only be opened from the inside. This is the full breakdown of what was actually in that room, why it existed, and what it reveals about the most surveilled and most misrepresented celebrity who ever lived. The room came to light when footage from the 2003 police raid on Neverland was finally released to the public. The raid itself made headlines everywhere, but what the cameras actually showed inside that hidden space got buried under the noise. The entrance was concealed at the back of a walk-in wardrobe in Jackson's master suite, and to get inside you had to push through the hanging clothes, find a door, and descend a narrow carpeted stairwell. At the bottom was an 8-by-7-foot chamber, and the first thing anyone notices when they see it is that it looks like a child's bedroom. Pillowcases printed with Peter Pan's face, the word Neverland stitched across the bed, a stuffed red-headed doll sitting on the mattress, a Mickey Mouse telephone on the bedside table, and framed photos of smiling babies on the walls. That is what the cameras showed, and that is what every tabloid ran with. But here is what those same tabloids left out. Jackson's bodyguard Matt Fiddes, who spent a decade working alongside him, went on record and said this directly. That room was not built by Michael Jackson. It was already there when he bought the house, and it was a panic room, a completely standard feature for a man whose net worth was in the billions, who had people literally parachuting onto his property, who received death threats constantly, and who had over 1,000 lawsuits filed against him during his lifetime. Fiddes described it simply as a space where Jackson had everything he needed to stay safe for a few days, until a problem was resolved, and he used it multiple times. Whenever intruders breached the Neverland grounds and the alarms went off, staff would direct Jackson straight into that room. It was a fortress inside a fortress, and because Michael Jackson was who he was, of course he decorated it. Of course it looked like Neverland. The man turned every space he occupied into an extension of the world he had built inside his own head, and that is not sinister. That is just who he was. But that panic room was not the only hidden layer inside Neverland, which is where the story starts to get more complicated. Jackson's bedroom suite was one of the most fortified private rooms in any residential property in America, with motion detectors in the corridor, the bedroom door alarmed and fitted with a peephole and 3 locks that could only be engaged from the inside, a keypad entry system, and a separate phone network that allowed him to monitor calls coming in and out of the entire ranch. He was spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on security every single month. Macaulay Culkin, who knew Neverland better than almost any outsider, described the alarm system in court testimony, explaining that whenever anyone approached the door to Jackson's suite, a soft chime would sound throughout the room, a ding-dong that told Jackson someone was coming before they ever reached him. The prosecution in 2005 tried to frame that alarm as evidence of something predatory, but the defense argued it was evidence of something else entirely. A man so terrified of being caught off guard, so worn down by years of people selling access to his private life, that he had engineered his own home into a protective system pointed inward. His own staff were selling stories to tabloids. Photographers were parachuting onto his land to get pictures of him without his wig and makeup on. By his own account, and by the account of people close to him, he was in a state of near constant paranoia about what the people around him might do next. He was not hiding things inside those rooms. He was hiding himself. And then in December 2024, something happened that reframes the entire picture. A storage unit in the San Fernando Valley was cracked open by a former California Highway Patrol officer named Greg Musgrove, and inside he found cassette tapes and DAT tapes belonging to a music producer named Brian Laurent, who had worked closely with Jackson in the late 80s and early 90s before simply vanishing. Nobody knows where Lauren is today. On those tapes were 12 fully recorded, never released Michael Jackson songs, and the titles alone tell you everything about the headspace Jackson was in when he made them. One is called Don't Believe It, written as a direct response to the rumors being constructed around him in the media. A document of a man who was listening to everything being said about him and just responding through music, because music was the only space where his words could not be twisted. Another is called 7 Digits, and Jackson explains the title himself on tape in his own voice. 7 digits is the number placed on bodies in a morgue. He wrote a song about becoming unrecognizable in death, about losing your name, and becoming a number, recorded it in secret, and it disappeared for 30 years. There is also a track called Truth on Youth, a full rap duet between Michael Jackson and LL Cool J that the world has never heard, a collaboration that was never announced, never leaked, and never mentioned publicly until that storage unit was opened. Musgrove took the tapes to the Jackson estate expecting lawyers, an offer, a negotiation, and the estate declined to purchase them. Their only statement was that the master recordings were already in their vault, and these were just copies, which means the estate has known about Don't Believe It, 7 digits, and the LL Cool J collaboration for years, and has chosen not to release a single second of any of it. That vault, according to people who have had access to it, is enormous. Tommy Mottola, who ran Sony Music and described himself as the shepherd of Jackson's catalog, said that for every album Michael Jackson ever made, there were multiple fully recorded tracks that never made the final cut, meaning there are unreleased songs from Off the Wall, from Thriller, from Bad, from Dangerous, from H.I. Story, from Invincible, spanning more than 2 decades of work. Akan said he recorded dozens of songs with Jackson in the years before his death, songs he described as uplifting and positive, and that he would keep his portion locked away until the family decided what to do. Will I? Said the same about his own collaborations with Jackson. All of it is sitting in a vault, under the control of an estate that looked at 12 rediscovered recordings by the King of Pop and said it was not interested. Michael Jackson spent the last years of his life building walls around himself, a panic room, an alarm system, a private phone network, layer after layer of protection inside a property that was already 700 acres of controlled territory, because the world outside those walls had given him every reason not to trust it. And buried within those same layers, on tapes in an abandoned storage unit in a valley outside Los Angeles, is a version of Michael Jackson writing about death, about rumors, about the machinery closing in around him, a version his own estate is in no hurry to let anyone hear. The room at Neverland was a panic room. That part is not a mystery anymore. The mystery is what he was so afraid of, and whether the answers to that question are still locked in a vault somewhere, waiting for someone to finally open it.